There ain't nothing wrong with me that you can't fix. There ain't nothing wrong with
This show's called Made in Nacogdoches, and I'm Brad Maule, and today we have a very special guest, June Clifton. Would you sort of introduce yourself to the people here? Tell them it's you.
Will. My name currently is June Price.
Oh, okay.
But most everybody knows me as June Clifton, and that's my maiden name. And there's a lot of Cliftons in this area.
Okay.
And I'm probably the only girl in this part of the country that was not given a middle name when I was born.
Not like June Bob or something?
No, and I tried to make up one 2 or 3 times, but it didn't work. So anyway, as I got older and got married, I started using Clifton as my middle name. So I go by June Clifton Price. So anyway, I'm kind of a newlywed. We've only been married 8 years. So
yeah, that's
anyway.
Like a while ago, you said I was new to Nacogdoches.
Yes.
You felt new. And I think 20 years here is kind of a newbie kind of thing for a 300-year-old town.
Exactly. Well, I was born here.
So that's what the people want to know. Like, tell them who you are before I start picking at you.
Should I look at the camera or look at you?
Either way.
Okay. Well, you're not bad to look at. So, okay. I don't, and I say whatever I'm thinking.
Where's my checkbook?
Yeah, exactly. Now, I was born here, and I was born at Memorial Hospital 71 years ago. I know it's a shock. You're thinking, how could she be 71? But I am. Thinking about the facelift these days.
No, don't do it. You know what? I like people as they are,
right? Not
as they wish to be.
Well, and I'm just thinking about it. I'm not going to do it. But anyway,
don't do it.
I won't, since you don't want me to. But anyway, I lived here all of my life except for about 8 or 10 years that I had married, and we were in the military and Air Force, and we moved around some. And other than that, I came back as quick as I could, So anyway, so I've been here nonstop since about 79, 89. No, 79. Yeah.
Okay. Gosh. So like when you were born here and growing up, when you were little, what was it like in Nacogdoches? Is it the same or?
Oh no, it's so different. But I'm a country girl. I grew up.
I can't tell that.
You can't tell. Now my husband says that I have a twang. I don't hear it. And my choir director at church has actually referred to me as Carrie Underwood a couple times. But
Reba McEntire also.
I took that as a compliment.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do have a little twang, and I've tried a couple times to get rid of it, and then I forget it. It is what it is. So anyway, I grew up, you've heard of Camp Tonkawah.
Oh, yeah.
I grew up just about 5 miles this side of Camp Tonkawah, not in Garrison. I was still in Nacogdoches, and played in the Nacogdoches Creek growing up, and went to school at Central Heights. Okay. Before Central Heights was the school to go to.
Yeah.
And I had dinner the other night with 3 of my friends that I started first grade with, and we all went to dinner together, still remained friends all these years. But
did you go to Camp Tonkawah? Was it Camp Tonkawah when you were little?
It was, and as a matter of fact, it was a Boy Scout camp when I remember it first. And I can remember the Boy Scouts. I remember sitting out on my front porch and watching the Boy Scouts march or hike past our house. They were cute, and anyway, and I was like 6 or 7 years old. But anyway, and we did sneak in a few times and go swimming.
Oh, that's the coolest place. People don't know about that. It's kind of a secret here.
It is, and it's always cool and cold. And have you been in the water there?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
What's funny to me is that people put watermelons in that water.
That's true.
To cool them down and stuff. Yeah. And my daughter and her husband and family, they live like in Denton, kind of Hazlet, Texas. But when they come out here, that's the first thing they want to do is go to Tonkawah. They
really?
Love it out there.
Well, the drive out there is nice. It's pretty, and it's just a pretty area in town. But anyway, I grew up out there, and I can remember most Saturdays we'd get up and get dressed, and we'd come into town to do our grocery shopping and doing whatever other shopping we'd do, But
what grocery store was here then?
There was Piggly Wiggly and A&P. my uncle was a butcher at A&P, so we would always go by there and see what kind of deals they had on me. And this was 60 years ago, so I can't believe I can remember it, but I remember that well. And but I'm trying to think. There was
What'd you do for fun back then?
well, we went to the movies a lot. And
Which movies? It was Main Street.
There was Main Theater and SFA Theater, and I can remember my parents. Both of my parents worked, all the time, and so when my mother, she always Saturdays was her day to clean house and do different things. So a lot of Saturdays they would. My sister was 2 years older than I was, and they would bring us into town. We'd pick out which movie we wanted to watch, and they'd drop us off at like 10 o'clock in the morning.
That's what we have in common. My family used to make my sisters and brother drop me off at 10 o'clock in the morning, and I would watch the same movies and cartoons all day long. Is that what you did?
We did. They would have, I remember they had like a morning, and it wouldn't be a matinee, but they had a morning like hour show, and there'd be cartoons, and of course a million previews of upcoming deals. Then probably about 1 o'clock, 1:30, they'd start the main feature. And most Saturdays we'd ask Mother and Daddy, can we watch it twice? So we'd stay till maybe 5 or 6 o'clock, and they'd give us enough money to get in. We'd get a hot dog and a drink and popcorn.
You were like a rich kid.
Well, it was. I realize now it was probably a lot of money to them, but I mean, it didn't, $2 or something, that would take care of a day.
Yeah.
And, but anyway, I saw, The Incredible Journey. I don't know if you remember that movie. I remember we went back to see it probably half a dozen
20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Yeah, that.
Did you see Beach Blanket Bingo?
A few times, yes. And of course, all the Elvis movies and all that. I was always smitten with that. And I loved the old Vincent Price horror movies. You remember those and everything. So that's kind of how we'd spend our Saturdays.
So did you, because I know I did you move seats between the different movies? Like I would change areas. I went up to the balcony. I'd sit for a while. And
Now, I will tell you that when I was little, I can remember when we weren't allowed to go in the balcony, but, that changed over the years. But that was like a treat to get after we once could get up into the balcony because those are the best seats. Yeah.
For me. Yeah.
And but anyway, we'd go find somewhere else. And some days my sister and I weren't getting along, and we'd sit several places. And
well, did you have other friends that showed up?
Sometimes. Most of the time it was just Judy and I. And so we had I had 3 siblings. I had my sister Judy that was 2 years older, and then my brother, his name was Neil. A lot of people knew him, and he was 8 years older. And then I had an older sister, Patsy, that was 10 years older. And so we were kind of like 2 separate families.
So you were the baby?
I was the baby.
Spoiled?
Rotten. I was my daddy's girl, and my mother was tired of kids by the time I came along. So anyway, I was the baby. And so.
That's a neat kind of thing. I'm a baby of the family too, which is that they're really tired of making you do anything.
Exactly.
They're just like, hey, listen, leave and try to come home by dark.
Exactly.
So.
I can remember I slept with my parents till I was 6 years old.
Did they know that?
They did, and it was a double bed, too. It wasn't a king-size bed. I don't know how we did it. But anyway, But I probably shouldn't tell this, but I will. But I said they used me for birth control because I can remember when I was under 6, I can remember them every once in a while they'd say, why don't you go sleep with Patsy tonight for a little while and I'll come get you in a minute, Yeah. And now I realize what they were doing.
Oh.
Yeah. So anyway. Wow. And I told him later in life that I figured out what was going on, so anyway.
They didn't need 4 or 5 kids anyway, did they?
No. So anyway.
Did you have a variety store here? That's what we always loved to go to.
There was a TGNY. I can remember that growing up. And there was downtown. I'm sure a lot of people told you about McCrory's.
Now tell me about it.
Well, it was a 5 and dime. And it's where I got my first bra. And...
At the variety store, at the 5 and dime? Was that a 5 or a dime?
Well, it wasn't much more than a dime, probably. But it had like the soda fountain. And you could get a sandwich or whatever.
Was that downtown?
It was where, where Godtail was and right where Greer's is and everything. That was where it was. It was where Greer's is. Okay. And Anyway, they had everything, from makeup to bras to some. I'm sure they had some clothes and a little bit of hardware and just everything, So
Isn't that nice? Hardware and panties.
yeah, exactly.
Kind of thing.
And but we had that, and then we had a JB White's, and which was like a kind of a low price, I guess, kind of clothing store.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't your upscale place, but you could get in every size, and everything, men, women, children, everything. And so there was Bale's department store. That was kind of that was up there, And so wait, I'm trying to think what
was all that downtown.
Mm-hmm. It was all downtown.
What else was downtown at that?
Let me think. There were no. There was a Stripling's had a Stripling's Pharmacy was downtown, and there used to be there. And there was a fire, and they had a fire, and I don't think they moved back then. But Stripling's had a great soda fountain counter, and the sandwiches had a great ham salad sandwich. I remember that. But there was a Stripling's, and I'm trying to think what else was downtown. There was a Harris's. As a matter of fact, there was a little clothing store. It was Harris's, and the people that built John Fleming's house is who owned that little store. So there's,
when you went to that fountain, the soda fountain thing,
yes.
What kind of customer were you? Because my dream as a kid was to have a banana split, but I couldn't afford it. It was 75
I
cents.
can remember the first banana split I had, and I was married, and my mother-in-law bought it for me.
Wow.
Isn't that funny? And it was in Tyler.
So what did you order when you went to the drugstore?
We got a Coke float. Okay. That was a big thing.
Yeah.
And like I say, at Stripling's had a great ham salad sandwich. I'm telling you, some of the older people, if you ask them to this day, they'll tell you ham salad sandwich at Stripling's.
How do you make a ham salad sandwich?
Well, I guess it's like, I've never made it. I don't cook. But it's,
okay.
Well.
We got to get into that too. I mean,
but anyway, it's kind of, I guess, like a chicken salad, but with ham. But something they did to it made it and it was on toasted bread, and it was really good. So, but I remember that. But that was a treat. And then we had on North Street, I'm trying to think what's there now. I think it's where McLemore's is now. There was a place called Top Burger. Do you remember Top Burger?
Well, Top Chef was a burger place.
No, it was Top Burger.
Top Burger.
And they had great milkshakes and huge hamburgers, and going there was a big treat and everything. We didn't eat out a lot, but every once in a while, Mother and Daddy would take us. And there used to be, I know you've heard about the Caravan.
Oh, yeah, never been there.
Well, they used to have a restaurant there that had wonderful chicken fried steak. I've never found anybody that could match that chicken fried steak. I remember it. Something about the gravy. I think they put.
What was the deal with the Caravan? Because it kind of had a little.
Well, the Caravan, it was a motel, and it had a restaurant that boomed. I mean, it was always busy, the restaurant. But then it became like a country western club. And it was not. It's kind of one of those places you hear them say that if you didn't have a knife when you got there, they'd give you one at the door. It had a reputation. I don't even remember one time ever going there as an adult, and it was just a lot. It was probably a lot of fun, but I was kind of scared of it. It was a lot of people there that you didn't know. And
now, where was that in relation? It was on North Street. You said.
Where the Caravan, and it's still. There's let me think. Where Harry's
building
right next door to it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was where it was, right there next to that.
So that was way out of town.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was out of town. Yeah. But
and you lived in Garrison, kind of.
Well, yeah, about 2.5 miles down the Camp Tonkawah Road, going toward Garrison. Yeah. So.
Did you have a farm?
My daddy owned cows and some pigs. He always had a couple of horses. And he actually worked in the logwoods when I was growing up as a logger. And I mean, you talk about how things have changed. You see these documentaries on these log trucks, and they have these big heavy equipment that lift and drag the logs through the woods. Well, he had a pair of mules.
Wow.
And they would chain them up to these logs, and they would I don't even know how they winched those big old logs up there, but somehow or another they did, and chained them down and everything. And it was hard work. It was It was hard work.
Do you have any photographs from that time, do you think? Or
I'm sure I probably do.
really?
And I've got a huge box of photos from that's in my storage building. And this thinking about all this, for getting ready for this, I thought I need to go through those pictures so badly. I really do. I'm the only one left in my family. My siblings have all passed away. My parents have passed away, so it's all kind of been put into my care, and I haven't taken very good care of it, I don't think. But anyway, he did that, and he had, like I say, he had pigs and cows. He always had a garden every spring, every fall, and it's kind of funny. My brother and my older sister, they would say that they didn't recognize my parents after they started raising us, because my older brother and sister were made to work on the farm, and I was the baby, and my sister Judy was kind of had some health issues growing up, and so they wouldn't let us get out in the sun too much. Now, that didn't stop us from laying out in the backyard with baby oil and iodine on.
See, that's the thing. Yeah, that's what we did.
Exactly.
People laid on the tin roof of a barn to get the good reflection.
Exactly.
Was the sun weaker then, or we were stronger?
Well, we were stronger, I think. But if Judy and I, sometimes Daddy would say, "Come on, we're going to go pick some peas or something," and we'd go out there, and and Mother would come out there, and our faces would be a little red, and she'd say, "You girls need to get in the house. Y'all are getting too hot."
That's small.
I know, but she was very protective of us like that. So, but anyway, like I say, we laid out. We'd go. As a matter of fact, we'd go to the caravan during the summer, and pay a quarter and lay out by the pool all afternoon. So,
wow,
those were big days.
I've always said that if they would come, I don't play golf, sorry, but if they would come up with some kind of country club or something where it just had a pool, I would pay to go there.
Yeah.
And did you have a public swimming pool here?
We did. It was where Shelton Gym is.
Mm-hmm.
It was there by Shelton Gym as part of the college, or I say it was part of the college used it, and you could pay and go there and everything. But I don't remember why, but we didn't go there as often as we did just go to the caravan. It was quick. It was easy.
Well, you had a pool either way.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so that's what
I know. That was a big social thing to do from the time I was a little kid.
Yeah.
And
my mother always worked. She worked part-time when I was growing up in a flower shop. She worked there was a place here called Gay Products that built lawn furniture.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, she worked there full time, and but then on the weekends she would work at the different flower shops here. She enjoyed doing. Well, I say she enjoyed it. She did it for the money.
Yeah.
But it was something she liked, and so she opened her own flower shop in, I think it's about 1977. And at Central Heights, and so, where the JP office is there, we owned that property, and she put her flower shop in there and was hugely successful. But my mother was she was, beside the word work in the dictionary is her picture. I mean, she never stopped, and so
did
anyway,
that bleed into your life and
it
your
did.
family?
I went to, I told you I got married when I was 19, because I thought that's what you're supposed to do, and I married a nice little Christian guy from Tyler who I'm still great friends with, thank goodness. And we had, but anyway, he and I got married, and I moved to Tyler. And then he was in the military, and we traveled around, spent 2 years in Japan, and came back, and talk about a culture shock.
Yeah, how was Japan? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Well, no, I loved it. But it totally goes along with that saying about youth is wasted on the young. I would enjoy it so much more now than I did then. Back then, I was young. I was a little afraid, of the culture and at first I was afraid of the people. Then I wasn't. But and I worried about money, and I worried about this, and I worried about that, and I missed my family. And back then, when I lived there, it was in the early 70s. You didn't just pick up a phone and call somebody in the States. You know, it was expensive. It was real expensive. And so a couple times a year while I was there, I would call Mother and Daddy and say, or I'd write Mother and Daddy and I'd tell them I'm going to call you on this certain day. And so then you could go on base and reserve a time, and you would place a call, and you would be hooked in through a military base in the States. So like if I'm talking to you and I say, hey, Brad, how are you doing? I'd have to say over, because then they'd have to click on, you know, you, and you'd have to say what you want to say, and then you'd have to say over. And if you didn't say over, it wasn't over. It wasn't over. And so you only had 3 minutes. You could only talk 3 minutes.
It's like being in jail.
Oh, it was horrible. And so I'd be on the phone with my parents, and I'd be saying, you know, here's this that's going on, over. And then they'd start talking, and then they'd forget to say over. And they can't hear me saying, say over, say over. So anyway, it was crazy. So I cried a lot when I was there. But anyway.
Your poor husband, I bet he was like, what's happening?
Yeah, he was. Well, at one point he said, you know, we had to pay for me to come over there because we were enlisted. We weren't officers. Right. So I hadn't been over there but about 6 weeks, and this humongous rat went across my foot in the kitchen because the housing we had was in the middle of rice paddies, you know, and so, and I just cried and carried on. And he said, I'll pay. We'll get you a ticket. You can go home. You know, I know.
He was a good guy.
Well, he was a good guy.
That's a lot of money, probably.
I think it was $700 one way, and that was a lot of money back then. And of course, we were, you know, every penny we had, you know, we had to have, because you didn't make much money in the military, and I couldn't work over there, and so, so it was great, and I learned so much, and I loved the people. They were absolutely wonderful to me and sweet. And I got pregnant while I was over there, and had my son while I was there, and he was 5 weeks old when I brought him home, and
you didn't name him Sushi or something?
No, but he did have dual citizenship till he was 18. Oh. Yes, he could have chosen to live there, but if you didn't, you know, physically on paper, you know, sign up to, that's the citizenship you wanted, well, you automatically became an American citizen. Right. His birth certificate's in Washington, D.C., you know, so, wow. And I'm going to tell you this, he brought him home, he was 5 weeks old, and I was by myself because my husband at the time, he flew military, and I had to fly commercial. So I'm having to make all these changes, Tokyo and then different places and in Seattle. And anyway, not one time when I was on American soil did an American man or anybody say, here, let me help you. And I'm carrying this baby and carrying a bag. In Japan, while I was traveling over there, I hardly got to hold Jason, my son, because it was always like, hey, let me help you. I'm here, you know, whatever, and carrying my luggage and everything. So they're very gracious people. They really are. And so anyway, so it was a good experience.
Wow. Did you get to see any of the country?
I did. We were real involved with a church there that had an American missionary, and he was from Nashville. And but anyway, and they lived just down the street from where Mike and I, old Mike. My husband now is named Mike.
Okay.
And my first husband, so he's old Mike, and my current husband's new Mike. And that's how we refer to him. So anyway.
Can I ask, like, how long are you married to old Mike?
6 years.
Okay.
And
how did you stay friends? I mean,
we had a son together, and he didn't have any other children. And I was just determined that that was not going to be an issue. We didn't like hate each other when we divorced. It just was over. We were too young.
You were 19.
I was 19. He was 20, and we just wanted different things, and we both knew that. And so for years and years and years, I did this. He lived in Tyler, and I lived in Nacogdoches, and so. Till my son got his driver's license, I would spend every Christmas with my old Mike and his current wife, who he's still married to, who I love, and her family, and I would just go up there on Christmas Day with our son and just spend the day. It became a tradition, you know.
Incredibly adult and kind of you, which we all should do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm telling you. I worked in family law in the courts for 22 years, and I can, I'm so grateful to myself and for old Mike that we worked this out, because I saw people just act like fools. And, the only people who got hurt were the children, So I will tell you that I was part of the problem with our first marriage not working. But I can tell you one fact about this guy that will explain so much. He still uses a flip phone. I'm telling you.
There's nothing wrong with that. That just... okay.
It shows he doesn't change.
He doesn't change. Yeah.
And he doesn't spend money.
You're just lucky that he didn't have a rotary cell phone or something.
Well, you're probably right. He probably would if he could.
Yeah.
But he's a great guy. He's a retired policeman in Tyler. I traded cars in Tyler several years ago, and the next day after I got home and everything, it hit me that I had left my gun in my car that I traded.
Ooh.
And, they don't always stay on the lot.
Yeah,
very
that's
long.
awkward.
And so I called them, and they said, no, the car's still here. It was in Tyler. So I called old Mike, and I said, hey, will you go get my gun for me? And he said, sure, and so he went and got it for me. And I told him, I said, well, it's loaded. And he said, well, he was kind of like, why have one if you're not going to load it? Yeah. So, so anyway.
Otherwise, it's just
I hope y'all are anti-gun, but anyway.
Yeah. Does everybody in Nacogdoches have a gun pretty much?
Pretty much. And luckily, most of the people I know have taken the gun classes, So
they have a license.
So they have a license, and they know a little bit more than just pull the trigger, So, yeah, I think most everybody does. So,
yeah. So you had children with your first
I had a son with him, and he's now 49 years old.
Yeah.
So, a great guy, never married, doesn't want to get married, not interested in having children.
That's kind of this generation of our children and stuff.
And I hate it because
later.
I didn't have... I always wanted grandchildren. I always thought if I could have grandchildren, I'd do a better job than I'd done with him. But he thinks I did a good job. So he and I kind of grew up together, and I was single for most of his growing up years. And so we just kind of, played it by ear and figured it out. And
so really you were a single mom raising a kid. Mm-hmm. How was that back during those days?
Well,
I mean, you were lucky you had a good ex-husband.
I had a good ex-husband, but it was scary. I had great parents who adored my son.
Yeah.
My son's real quiet. He didn't take after his mama, but he's real quiet. And my parents got the biggest kick out of him when he would talk about something or tell them something. They'd just think it was the cleverest thing they'd ever heard. So they were a big help to me when he was growing up. And I moved back here. I was going to tell you, my mother opened her own flower shop, and I was working in Tyler for the State Commission for the Blind, and which was a great experience and learned a lot. But I worked there for 3 years. Well, my mother called me one day, and I'd had a really bad day with my boss. I would own him now if it was today's time, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And but anyway, I'd had a really, really bad day that day. And she called me, and she said, and this is God, I'm telling you, everything in my life of getting me where I am is it's faith and it's God, because I made so many stupid wrong turns in life, and he would always somehow or another get me back to where I needed to be. But anyway, mother called me, and she said, June, this business has taken off. I need help. And I had worked on the weekends with her some, and made to make a little extra money and everything. And she said, I need you just to come help me manage it, help, like doing ordering, do the books, stuff like that. And so I gave my notice that day. Wow. And so I moved back to Nacogdoches, and Jason was 4. And I worked for my parents for about, for about 10, 15 years. And if I think back on it,
which is perfect because you had a small child.
Small child. They helped me pick him up at school. some days I'd pick him up in my car. Some days my daddy'd pick him up in his pickup truck. Some days we'd be in the delivery van or the station wagon that we delivered in.
So you just put him in back there with all those flowers?
He knew how to go to the funeral homes and the hospitals and everything else. But he was so funny. He would tell people that he owned a lot of cars. Now, you have to understand that like the old station wagon was beat up. The roof was coming in on the inside and everything. But he didn't care. To him, he was rich and had all these cars, so.
Yeah. Which brings up, you said it was a God thing.
Yeah.
Don't you find that there's a connection between all these major events in your life? I mean, it's like whenever you ask, it's pretty much there.
Yeah. Like I say, my parents, well, I was brought up in church. I mean, my mother always told everybody that I went to church first time when I was 2 weeks old. And we went every time the doors were open,
Were you Baptist?
I was Baptist.
Okay.
And
I could feel that.
You could
feel that energy.
Yes, that's right. I'm not a hand raiser in church. I don't do that because that
sort of a back row or middle section.
No, I'm kind of middle section. I sing in the choir. I'm real active in church, but I haven't always been. But I grew up being involved in everything, and I've always just lived my life knowing that it's going to work out. That God's got a plan for me. And I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know how to get there on my own. And believe me, I made lots of mistakes.
Well, did you have some dark, sad moments when you were like, I don't know if I can do this or whatever?
Okay. I moved back to Nacogdoches in 1979, and in 1980, and I'd been divorced for a couple of years already. And I met this wonderful man through some friends and just fell madly in love. His name was Lon Bellamy, and he had more personality than he never met a stranger. Everybody loved him. Good looking, had a nice beard, and but anyway, we were married just a little over a year, and he had a massive heart attack and died.
Oh, no.
I know. It was horrible.
I thought you were going to tell me he just turned out to be the worst creature on earth.
No,
but
he was
you
wonderful.
loved him, and
we had a great time together. We hated to be apart to go to work, and he had a daughter. He was widowed, but he had a daughter that was 10. And so we had this blended family, and my parents loved him. He loved them. It was just a great situation. Not to say we didn't argue every once in a while, but, Yeah. And he loved to cook, and I don't. And so he was 10 years older, almost 11 years older than I am. And he had a heart attack, and he died. And, we were having a conversation late at night, and he just collapsed on the floor.
Oh, my God.
And I still, I can remember that feeling. Just absolute panic and every negative thing you could think of.
Did you have any clue what was going on, or you just knew he passed out or something?
Well, I knew he just, like I say, he just collapsed on the floor, and I could tell that he had lost all control. Okay.
Right.
And his eyes just rolled back in his head, and he wasn't, I knew he wasn't breathing. And that was before 911. You talk about a panic.
Yeah.
That was before 911. And because we had the flower shop, I knew all the numbers to the hospitals and stuff, but you can't think.
Yeah.
And I was trying to dial punch the numbers in, and I couldn't. I just remember that. And finally, I called for an ambulance, and everything. Of course, it was too late. And so it was just that was a dark, dark time for me. I was 27, and I thought my life was over. Mm-hmm. And I thought I would never be happy again. And I thought that, it was just you talk about a dark time. And I never thought about suicide or anything like that, but I did. There were times I thought, if I go now, it's okay. It's just because it was hard. And so his daughter went to live with her maternal grandparents, but we've remained friends. I saw her just not too long ago, and but anyway, I stay friends with everybody. Yeah. I just never have had any reason to be mad at people. Just it is what it is.
Which kind of brings up John Fleming. How did you meet
I
Ben?
have stories.
I know.
Okay. John, we met actually first through a mutual friend. This was over 30 years ago. He was working for an attorney in Lufkin, and my friend worked for this attorney, and we all went this is a funny story. There were several girlfriends and John. He was the only guy. We all went to a movie. I don't remember what the movie was, but it was one of those nights. These were a lot of friends of mine and I was driving, and it was just one of those nights where everybody was kind of off. It wasn't fun. It wasn't funny. Was one of my friends who I don't know why. I remember she sat in the back seat and she had brought a Bible and she was reading, and I'm thinking
It's bad when they bring a Bible to your movie.
Never done that before, and so it just wasn't really a fun night. But anyway, we dropped John off at his car, and I started to drive off, and he came running back to the car, and like I say, this was over 30 years ago, and he knocked on my window, and I rolled it down, and he said, "I just want to tell you, this has been the best night of my life." Oh. And I thought, you poor thing. I know I have to help you. He's just so gracious.
He's one of the kindest people I've ever met.
Let me tell you, but he's not a saint. No.
Well, let's get into that.
Well, first of all, I have to tell you a funny story about John. There's been a couple times where John has been given misinformation about somebody passing away, and he would. And on those times, he rushed to give his condolences, and to comfort the family, only to find out not to where they knew what had happened. He just went to their house too soon, and then realized he had misunderstood. So when my sister died,
telling him these things.
Well. He got an email from somebody, but it involves Marcus Cox, who's crazy.
Who's funny.
He's crazy. He's bunny crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, when my sister died, she had a sudden illness, and she and I were joined at the hip, and John knew this, and John knew that I was devastated, and it was really unexpected. And so anyway, the morning after she passed away, I'm at home, and I'm just getting out of the shower, about to go to the funeral home, and my new Mike comes and tells me, he said, John Fleming's here, wants to see you. This is like 8 o'clock in the morning. And so I put on a robe and walked out there, and John's like, June, I am so sorry. And just for a minute.
You couldn't help yourself, could you?
I didn't do it, but I wanted so badly just go, what are you talking about? But he would have died. He would But I've told him since then I've started to do it, and he's thanked me for not doing it. But several people, like Stephanie Stevens, she's fussed at me for not doing it. She's like, oh, you missed a great opportunity, Yeah. But no, John is a great guy. And anyway, but we met that night, the greatest night of his life. And then he moved over and started practicing law in Nacogdoches.
Wait a minute. You just said the greatest night of his life was meeting you, okay?
Well, no. Oh. The night that we went to the movie, and he came back and said it was the greatest night of his life. And we were all going, what? It was awful. We were, nobody had fun.
Because I was like, I wonder what his side of this story
Well,
is.
He will tell you that's the best thing that ever happened to him. But anyway, he and I we just kind of clicked, and I love to tease him, and he takes it really well. And but John, let me tell you his fetish. He has a fetish. Okay. He likes to have his feet rubbed. Now, Meredith, his wife, refuses to do it. So I am the appointed foot rubber.
Wow.
Now, he keeps his socks on just to everybody will know it's all
Christian.
It's all Christian. He keeps his socks on, but he loves to have his feet rubbed. And there have been many times, and even since new Mike and I are married, that Meredith has called me and said, June, please come over and rub his feet. He's about to drive me crazy.
Well, now, I was going to ask, does Meredith thank you profusely for doing this?
Yes.
I think it's the best thing in the world for you.
She's just tickled. I mean, she doesn't have to do it, and she doesn't want to do it, and she's not going to do it. Right. And so now you may want to edit this part out, but I'll tell you anyway. So one night, Meredith's in Dallas seeing her family, and John stayed home. And he called me and said, "Why don't you come over and let's have a glass of wine, and you can rub my feet." And so,
sorry, it blew into
I know. So I said, "Well, let me call Stephanie Stevens and see if she wants to come with me." Chaperone, because then Meredith is out of town.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, I go over there and we visit and drink wine, and I rub his feet, and Meredith calls while we're there, and the only thing she says is, "I have a new sewing machine. Do not let June touch my sewing machine."
Are you a bad sewer?
No, but it was it's a real fancy quilting machine, and she's real protective of it. I don't sew. And so anyway, the next morning, I called Meredith in Dallas, and I said, about 10 o'clock, and I said, "Call to tell you I just got home." And the sex was amazing, but I didn't touch your sewing machine. She said, "Good." Now you can edit that part.
Oh, my God. That won't be edited at all. Have you heard that expression, spill the tea?
Yes.
I had just heard that.
I just heard it recently, too. I had to ask a friend of mine what it meant.
Me, too. But you're spilling the tea.
I'm spilling the tea. I told John, he asked me to do this, and he talked me into it. I said, well, it's all hands on deck. It's all going to be told.
Well, before we started this, before we started, you said, "Well, I'm going to change a bunch of names, Brad."
Well, not his, though.
But it didn't happen.
No,
but
no.
He's there for it.
But he...
was there, like, spark of romance? Not then, but early on when he knocked on your window, was he
he was the cutest little thing, but he's younger than I am, and not a lot, though. But no, I don't... There wasn't, but we have, since then have said, if we ever find a time when we're both single again, it's on.
Okay.
So, and every once in a while he'll say, "Oh, we still got that deal," and I'll say, "Yeah."
It's good to have a little backup occasionally.
Exactly, So, but John and I just, and of course we worked together in the courts. He was county attorney. I was working for the county court at law. And so we were right next door to each other. I was court coordinator for 22 years.
Wow.
And so I worked for Jack Yarbrough. You didn't know J. Jack, did you?
No.
Well, I have to tell you that story. But anyway, and then I worked for Jack Sins. You know Jack?
Yeah, I know.
Who's a great guy.
Yeah.
And you talk about a saint.
Yeah, literally.
He really is.
He is.
I used to tell him that when I grew up, I wanted to be just like him. And of course, he's younger than I am, but he has the best heart.
Yeah.
He sees the good in everybody.
Really, the judges here, like Judge Klein and Judge Sins, just such good people.
And
nice.
Exactly, Jeff Davis.
Oh gosh, and funny.
I would fight a grizzly bear for Jeff Davis and John Fleming.
Yeah, and for Jeff Davis's dad when he was alive, best man, just good.
He and I worked. My office, I had a door. There was a little bitty short hallway about 2 feet wide, and then there was Brian Holt's door.
Yeah.
So we had
changed.
We did spill some tea.
I bet. He loved to tell stories and stuff like that.
And he just such a Southern gentleman, but just bad to the bone. though. He really was. He was just bad. And he has this Carolyn, you know her, I'm sure, his wife.
Yeah.
She's just one of these saintly women. I mean, she's so good and so graceful.
What is the deal with these people? They all marry saintly women.
I don't know. Mine didn't. But he, she just worshipped him, and just, this, he thought he could do no wrong. And he was just, and so happy when he retired that he'd be home with her and everything. Which she and I had a conversation about it. But I love Jeff, and whenever I would see Jeff and Brian Holt together, somebody may think this is strange, but I just loved. They would kiss on the lips. I mean, just a little peck, But they were just so intimate. I mean, just such a close
just a
family.
good bond of father-son.
Just good people. And of course, as Brian Holt got older, Jeff would say, I have to go with him everywhere he goes because he has no boundaries, nothing's off there's no limit to what he can talk about, but that's what made him so precious. He was a hoot. So,
yeah.
But I loved him.
So you talked about Yarborough.
Yes.
What was the story?
Well, J.J. Yarborough was the first county court at law judge here in Nacogdoches. So he was appointed to that position, and he ruled that court with an iron fist. He didn't. Oh Lord, he took no prisoners. And he heard family law, he heard probate, he heard criminal Class A and B misdemeanors, civil lawsuits up to like $100,000 at one time. I mean, so there was just a plethora of things that he heard, every kind of case. So we were always scheduling stuff. And we had criminal court every Tuesday. And then it was different. We scheduled at different times during his reign. But anyway, I worked for him for about 10 years before he retired. And he was a tyrant. I mean, there's really no other way to put it when I first started working for him. I mean, you'd knock on his door and he'd say, "If you must," and I was scared to death of him at first. And he made me cry a couple times, because he could be so mean. And in his court, no one spoke unless he spoke to you. And I mean, I sat by his side, handed cases to him when we'd call him. And if I didn't do it fast enough, he'd make some comment like, I guess I'm going to have to get some new staff or something like that, And at first, I would just be, oh my God, what did I do wrong, and all this stuff. But then I got to where I would say, he would when I'd knock at his door and he'd say, "If you must," and I'd open the door and I'd go, "Well, I wouldn't if I didn't have to."
Okay.
Just that kind of thing. And he and I, we just became comrades. I mean, just.
So at what point did you kind of twist him around your little finger?
I've probably been there a couple of years whenever really he realized how I think I was kind of invaluable to him because I was his gatekeeper.
Yeah.
And I think he realized that I was really trying to please him, and I learned a lot. When I first started there, I was handling scheduling criminal court, and it was like say Class A and B misdemeanors, DWIs, assault, criminal trespass, theft, things like that. And I thought, in my little innocent world, I thought, we'll go weeks if there won't be any new cases because people don't break the law.
That's going to bring up a question here in a moment.
Yeah.
Go on.
But I was in for a shock, because there were
are criminals in Nacogdoches?
There are criminals in Nacogdoches. And there's it's not that there's so many, but there's so many habitual ones. Yeah. So, but anyway, he toughened me up because people would call me and they'd say, "I can't come to court today like I'm supposed to. I'm scheduled, but my little girl is sick or my grandmother died or something." And I'd be going, "Oh, I'm so sorry, and let me see if we can reschedule you." And I would go, "Judge Yarborough, so and so called, and this is the reason they said they can't come today. What can I tell them?" He said, "Well, tell them that we'll reschedule them, but when they come in, be sure and bring their toothbrush because they won't be going home."
That's encouraging. And
so I would just get back on the phone and say, "We can't reschedule." But then I got to where I'd say, "Judge said bring your toothbrush because you're not you're not going home." But anyway, so, and I guess whenever I kind of realized the seriousness of it and that that you couldn't believe everything everybody told you, so so he and I really got along. As a matter of fact. I spoke at his funeral, and he'd written down in the instructions that he wanted me to do the eulogy and to talk about him because he what can I tell you that story?
Please.
Okay. Am I boring y'all to death? But anyway, we had a big steak dinner at the hotel right about the time I was retiring and from the county clerk's office, and because I was county clerk for 8 years before I retired. So anyway, I have had several procedures. I told you I have 2 new knees, and I've had 3 major back surgeries. So I'm basically the bionic woman without all those superpowers. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I'd had back surgery, and I was really having a lot of trouble with pain. And I was going to this banquet, and I knew I was going to have to get up in front of people and accept this certificate that the state bar was. The local bar was, given out to people who were retiring and stuff, and had served for a long time. Rooms full of lawyers, judges, retired people, everything. So I decided to take a pain pill.
Oh.
And I didn't have anything cold in the refrigerator except this bottle of peach vodka. So I decided I would just take a little bit of that peach vodka
To help the pill go
to
down.
take the pill, and because I was thinking I need something so I don't, because I won't walk funny in front of people, you know. And then when we get there, Stephanie Stevens, I'll use her name a lot, and I will not change it to protect her.
Okay.
But she put a glass of wine on right in front of my plate, and I drank it. And I can honestly tell you that I never sat down at that table. I never took a bite of that steak dinner. I worked the room.
Because you felt good.
I think I did.
Yeah.
But I didn't remember a lot of it. And my husband the next day knew Mike, who loves me and thinks I can do no wrong, and he didn't care. He said, June, who was that attorney that was sitting across from me at our table? And I said, I don't even know where our table was. And you know, you probably in your younger days or when you were wild and crazy had those mornings you'd wake up during the night, or you know, after you'd go to bed and you'd wake up and think, what in the heck did I do?
Blackout drunk. Yeah.
I woke up about 3 o'clock that next morning and I thought, what did I do? And I remembered that I had gotten a microphone at one point. And I remembered I had told a couple of stories. I mean, but anyway, so I'm not kidding. I'm sick to my stomach. I'm thinking, what have I done, you know?
Yeah.
And so I get to work, and I'm county clerk at this point, and I go to my office, and I have a message to call Judge Yarbrough as soon as possible. And he was there, if that's the deal. And I thought, oh, my God, he's going to kill me. What did I say? And I called him, and he said, I've got a favor to ask you. And I said, sure, Judge, whatever you want, I am here for you. He said, well, I'm planning my funeral, and I want you to speak at my funeral because you are so entertaining. And you know me better than anybody. And I went, oh, yes, I'll be happy to. Yes, I will. And anyway, so when he passed away, his family called me, and I said, you know that he's got it written down that you're supposed to speak. So I did. So
did he base his obituary or what you were going to say at the funeral based on your behavior that night?
Yes.
Maybe? Wow.
Yes. Well, he and I talked about it a couple times after that, and he said, you were just having such a good time, and he said, and everybody just thought you were so funny, and he said, and you know, and he said, everybody thinks I'm real serious all the time, and he said, you know, you can show a lighter side of me, and I went, okay, I'll do it. So anyway, so he and I became really close, and I told this at the funeral. I would always call him, like if I knew there was some news he might be interested in. He'd retired and everything, so I would call him and I'd say, you know, I just wanted to let you know what's going on. So and so did this or is doing that, and he had always answered the phone when I would call, really this gruff hello, because that's just how he talked. Yeah. But I said every conversation we had, he ended it with "I love you," and I'd say "I love you too." You know, so it turned out to be great. But then I went to work. Oh, I didn't go to work, but Judge Sins he was elected to that position, Jack Sins. And it was night and day because Judge Sins is the kindest, most understanding, sweetest man that ever was. And I just loved him, still do. And but it was an experience because he came from a pretty sheltered background. Mm-hmm. And had not, you know, he was married to his
childhood sweetheart,
almost childhood sweetheart. You know, they'd started dating when he was in college, and he was just a precious man. And there were so many things that happened in family law that just shocked him. And I have to tell you this one story. I won't say that. I'll say that a lot. I'll tell you about this. This was funny. This was really funny. Okay, so we had this family law case where this woman was fighting for custody of her older children. They were still teenagers. And to say that they were redneck, that is being kind. Mm-hmm. These people involved in this case they gave country a whole new, you know, meaning. But anyway, so I always sat beside Judge Sins when he's on the bench. I'd be sitting right here to his left. And so this woman is on the stand in the witness stand, and she's testifying against her former friend. They've had a fight, and now she's testifying against her friend that's trying to get custody. And so the lawyer says, "Now, Miss Smith, isn't it true that you and the plaintiff and her husband had a threesome?" And the woman went, "No, that ain't true. It was me and her husband." Well, I couldn't even look at Judge Sands. I'm just kind of cutting my eye that way, you know. So anyway, we leave the courtroom, and there was a lot more said after that. But anyway, we leave the courtroom, and he calls me in his office, and I go in there, and he said, he loved to chat. We'd sit and chat all the time. And he said, "June, I want to ask you a question." He said, "These threesomes, how do these people find each other?" He said, how do you know somebody that would want to do something like that? How do they get together? And he keeps asking the same question over and over
There's a lot
again.
of people out here right now asking that same question.
And I looked at him and I said, "Let me ask you a question." And he said, "What?" I said, "What makes you think I know?" And that was the end of that conversation.
That was the end of the conversation.
And the end of that part of it. So anyway, he and I always had a great relationship. And
How many judges have you worked for?
Just those two, Judge Yarborough and Judge Sands.
Okay.
And then, listen, when I retired from the county court at law, and I went in to tell Judge Sands that I was going to run for county clerk, and which means I would end my job with him, it was easier to divorce my husband, I can tell you, because he and I, you know, he took care of me, I took care of him, and you know, I'd say, we'd be doing something, I'd say, "Judge, you need to get in the courtroom. Those lawyers are waiting on you," you know, and he'd say, "Oh, okay," you know, and he didn't get mad or anything, you know, but we just always had a really good working relationship. So
what made you decide to run for the office?
Well, that's
and
another
how did you
story.
break it to him?
Well, my best friend of over 40 years, Carol Wilson, who was county clerk for 30-something years before I took the job, for over 20 years, she had been telling me, "When I retire, I want you to run for the position." Well, I always said no because, you know, I had this vision and this idea that all of my skeletons would come clinging out of the closet. But I don't really have any secrets. You can tell I tell everything on myself. But I've been married more than once, more than twice, and more than I should be. But it took me a while to figure out what I was doing wrong, and then I was single for 20 years.
One time you were a kid, and one time he died.
And then
that's a very good excuse.
Well, then I dated this guy that just wanted to get married so badly, and you know how you said you looked at that door and thought about it?
Yeah.
I knew that we went to Vegas and got married, and I knew when I did it that it was a mistake. But let me tell you how bad a mistake it was. I planned the whole ceremony on us getting in to see Tom Jones that night. So, I mean, that was the most important part to me, you know.
You know what? Actually, I've seen Tom Jones a couple times in Vegas, and it's almost worth getting married to go see Tom Jones. Maybe
right.
He's really old, but I'd never been so excited. It was
he
incredible.
does. He puts on a great show.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so I knew it was a mistake, but, you know, I was committed.
It was Tom Jones.
It was Tom Jones. And so we got married, and he left me the first time after 2 weeks. And and then he came back. He'd get mad about little bitty things. I mean, just little bitty things. And he'd just pack up and leave. And he left me 6 times. And it took me the 6th time to say, you know, I don't think this is working out, you know. So anyway, we divorced. That's the only one that wasn't amicable, but we kind of sort of made up toward the end before he died. So anyway, then I married kind of my high school boyfriend, and I did that mainly because Jason was young, and not that I didn't love him at the time, but it was sort of like we need to get married if we're going to keep having a relationship, you know.
There's some confusion in maybe East Texas, or not even East Texas, all of the South, where you mix up attraction with marriage.
Yes. And so we got married, and we were married for 10 years. And it just didn't work.
You know, in
out.
Hollywood, that's almost a lifetime.
It is, and if I'd have stayed a little bit longer, I would have gotten part of his Social Security. But dadgummit. But anyway, no, but we're great friends now.
Good.
And actually, after we divorced, we even dated a little bit. But then it never did. It wasn't meant to be. But anyway, so then I was single for about 20 years.
You know, this is kind of a funny. My father used to tell me, "You cannot plow in fourth gear, Brad," and you kind of been going in fourth gear all these years. Seems like,
yeah,
because you got married and then you dated a little bit later on after 10 years. So that's funny.
So, but anyway, we remained friends. But then, and. Let's see, I had this really good thought, and
I messed it up. Sorry, I'll be quiet.
No, please don't. As a matter of fact, we need to talk. I want to tell you this: that today, I watched you die. You did good.
Oh,
I teared up after all these years.
you know, people make fun of me a little bit because as an actor, you have these ideas, and one of my ideas at the end of that scene, because it was like 10 pages of people saying goodbye to me.
Sure.
I was supposed to die, and I looked off and I saw my dead daughter.
Yes,
my
BJ.
TV daughter,
yes.
BJ. I saw her, but they didn't. You couldn't tell that. People just thought I turned to the side and screamed or something.
Yeah.
So people make fun of that a little bit.
Really?
But I had a reason for doing it.
No, I understood.
So you teared up a little bit. Okay, good.
I understood it. My mother, right before she died, she saw something. I don't know what.
Well, see,
that's reached for it, and that was it. And so, and she smiled.
See, a lot of people do that. They see their parents or their grandparents in the room. So I was trying to.
No, I was with
Got
you.
it.
And I did. I teared up.
Do you know that I ate pizza and I think I was at the Sports Shack when I died because we tape it early, and then I had already come out here. So
really,
I died at the Sports Shack actually, and it was hard because people like Jay Thrall and people were sitting around me and like going, "Hey, Brad, you look pretty good for a dead guy."
Really? Oh yeah, those aren't the best people to die in front of. No,
they're going to kill you.
Yeah,
they're not going to let you
exactly.
just die.
I mean, you've remained friends with Poogie.
Yeah, he's one of my best friends.
I know, and to me, the two of y'all are like totally different.
Like, yeah, we are.
I love Poogie. I mean, I've known. As a matter of fact, my fourth husband, the one that I'm still real good friends with, he was a fireman, and so that's how I got to know Poogie. And so
there's a great videotape from the early '80s of the fireman, and Poogie made it, I believe. But anyway, they're doing CPR with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, going like this, and I'm like, I guess that was a different time, wasn't it, Poogie?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm sure that happened.
Poogie and I are different, but we're also like brothers from another mother. I was in West Texas. He was here, but we did the same things.
Yeah. But he's a great guy. Yeah. And Tammy, I know Tammy well and everything. But
so how is New Mike with all this? He's cool.
Yeah, he's great. Okay, let me tell you the story about New Mike. Okay, he and I were friends for 25 years. He's a little older than I am, and he's 13 years older than I am. He's 84. Fishes almost every day, backs the boat up, loads it up, unloads it by himself. He's 6'5", big guy, and just great. And he's so handsome. But anyway, he and I were friends, and we had mutual friends. And but I never thought about dating him because he was older, and I thought, to be honest, I thought he was a little bit sophisticated for me because there's nothing sophisticated about me. And but anyway, I can, as Jeff Davis says, I can put the big pot in the little pot if I have to. But but anyway, so I had just gotten elected as county clerk, which I got to go back to that
we got to go back to that story.
Don't forget to ask him about that because that's a good story. But anyway, I just gotten elected, and I was going to a conference in South Padre, and I was driving by myself. That's a long way to South Padre drive.
Yeah, it's 8 hours.
Yeah, and so I'm just having a little conversation with God, and when I pray, I don't. I'm not a get on my knees, and I'm not saying I never have, but I'm saying it's not the way I always do it. I'm not a thee and a thou and a person. Right. I just talk. Yeah, like I'm talking to my daddy.
I think God appreciates.
I think so. He understands me a lot better that way. But I kind of talk to him like I would my daddy, and because because I think of him kind of that way.
He is.
He is.
Your
Well, he is.
father.
But you know what I'm saying? I know he loves me just even more than my daddy loved me, and my daddy thought I could do no wrong.
Todd probably gets a kick out of you.
Well, I hope
would
so. I'm hoping he does. He had to have a sense of humor, or he wouldn't have done all this.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm driving along, and I'm just talking to God, and I said, I have a great life. I'm happy. I have a great job. I love it. I've made great friends over the years. I have a new car. I'd driven the same car for like 12 years, and I'd just gotten a new car, and I was happy about that. So anyway, and I said, I love where I lived, which I'll have to tell you about that. But anyway, I said, I have so much to be thankful for. And I said, the only thing I don't have, and I'm not asking for it, is I don't have a person in my life. I don't have a companion. I'm not in a relationship. And I probably said I don't really want one. I probably said that about 10 times. But I said, if that's what's missing in my life, if that is meant to be, then it's your choice, because I don't make good choices for me. And so, and that's just basically was my conversation with him that day.
Was it a sad conversation?
No,
and this kind of
I was telling him what all I
driving along.
it was like, I have a great life. I love my job. I love this. It was really more of a praise. And I'm a big gospel music person, and I'm sure I had been singing gospel music and stuff. I was singing along with the radio and everything. And anyway, so I was going to South Padre. The next day, out of the blue, Mike Price, new Mike, calls me. He never calls me. We did stuff with a group, it was never just me and him. And he called me, and he said, June, he said, I just got a new bass boat. And he said, I just thought that you would look so pretty sitting out in that bass boat out on the lake.
Ooh, that's pretty smoky
I
right
thought
there.
it was pretty hot. And I said, well, thanks. I said, that sounds great. He said, well, why don't we go to dinner one night and talk about it? And I said, well, sounds great. I'm in South Padre, and I won't be home till Saturday or something like that. And
you know how serious that is for somebody that they got a new bass boat and they think about you?
With him, I know how serious
Yeah.
it is, because the fishing's his life. And I said, tell him there's me and there's fishing, and sometimes I think the fishing tilts a little bit more to the. But anyway,
Everybody needs a break.
exactly. But anyway, so we talk, and he said, "Oh, okay." I said, "Well, we'll talk, when I get back into town." So I hung up, called our mutual friend Carol Wilson, and I said, "Carol, I'm not sure, but I think Mike Price just asked me for a date." So anyway, we laughed about it, and everything, and about whether or not it really was. So anyway, I get home, and we didn't go to dinner. He just called and said, I've lined up a fishing guide, which that tells you a lot right there. We're going first class.
That's $300 or $400 right there.
Yeah. This is first class stuff. So it's like flying first class,
Yeah.
So anyway, he said, I've lined up a guide for next Tuesday. He said, do you want to go fishing? I said, sure, that sounds great. I've never had a guide. And he said, well, I'll pick you up at 4:00 in the morning. He said, and I can't pull in your driveway with pulling the boat. So he said, can you just come meet me out front? And I said, sure. So I took a selfie that morning of me out waiting for him at 4:00 in the morning. So we went fishing. We there was a joke about we stopped in Etoll, I think it was, to get Mena's.
Yeah.
And I went to the bathroom, and the bathroom was on the outside.
I know exactly where it is.
The bathroom's on the outside. It's dark. It's 5:00 in the morning.
Fancy bathroom, too. It's
Yes.
like Buc-ee's.
Exactly.
$1 million
Oh, it's not
bathroom.
like Buc-ee's.
I know that.
But so anyway, I come back around, and Mike's like driving off, pulling the boat, and I'm going, Mike. I've really made this story when I tell it. I really tell it like I chased him down the street.
Yeah.
But what it was, he thought the bathroom was on the other end of the building, and so he was moving the boat. But I tell everybody he tried to leave me in Etoll at the
He
Minnesota.
had second thoughts.
Yeah. So anyway, we fished that day, and this was before fish finders. And so now it was real fishing then. We didn't catch anything. So then we stopped in Broadus, and I think it's Broadus. It's an old Dairy Queen. Is that in Broadus?
Well, I think there's like a catfish.
Yeah. Well,
place
anyway,
or
we stopped and
something.
had lunch and everything, and we got back to my house, and I thanked him, and he didn't walk me to the door, which is not like him. He's very much a gentleman. I'm not sure why he did. He probably had to go to the bathroom or something. But anyway, I just leaned over and gave him a peck on the cheek and thanked him, and that was it. So I got in the house, and I called Carol. I said, well, I'm still not sure if we went on a date or not, or just went fishing. And so he called me later in the week and said, "Do you want to go to Ralph and Kaku's this weekend and have dinner?"
That's a date.
And that's a date. And when we got out of the car, he held my hand. And I said, "We're on a date." And so, but no, he, I've tried to warn him about stuff about me. I'll say, "Now, I'm going to do this, and I probably will say this or say," and he's like, "I don't care. Sure. Just be yourself, And he knows I like to talk. And so, anyway, so he doesn't have a problem with any of this, no.
You have a real loving kind of heart.
Me?
Yeah.
I think I do. Yeah, I do. I really do. I have a very forgiving heart.
Yeah.
I don't. I haven't really been mad at anybody for a long time ever in my life. I've always been quick to forgive.
Do you think that came from your parents, or?
I think it came maybe from my daddy. He was a real outgoing person, and people loved him, and he always had stories, and he was he spanked me a few times, but he would always tell me
Probably.
He would always tell me it hurt him a lot worse than it did me. And right before he died, he was hurt in an accident when he was in his early 50s, and he died at 75. But he had a little bit of a simpler thought process after the accident, and just sweetener. He was almost more mellow and sweeter. And one day he cried and told me he was sorry he ever laid a hand on me. And I said, "Daddy, you didn't do it nearly enough. I needed a lot more." But I don't know. I just never have. I just have always known that, the only person I'm really hurting if I'm mad at somebody is me, So anyway.
Well, what'd you do to get spanked?
Well, one time, went up to a neighbor's house. We lived on a farm to market road, the Camp Tonkawah Road. And it was, hilly. Right where we were, there was a pretty good-sized hill. And so I was walking up to the neighbor's house, and Daddy told me, "Don't walk in the highway. Walk on the side of the highway." And he walked outside and saw me walking right down the middle of the highway, and he spanked me for that.
Yeah. I bet he didn't really spank you, though.
Well,
it's
no.
more the threat of it all.
No. And he would, and he would threaten too a lot of times, but he never, no, he was not. I didn't want to disappoint my parents. Yeah. I didn't want to make them mad. And one time I told my sister Judy, who was mean, I told her, I said,
she was mean.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, she was a little mean, but I loved her. She and I were best friends. But anyway, I told her that I was probably about 5 years old, and I told her, I said, when Daddy spanks me, I don't cry because it hurts. It just hurts my feelings. And so she went and told him, "June said when you spank her, it doesn't hurt."
Oh, she was mean.
She was awful.
She's a rat.
Yes. But anyway, I didn't get in trouble. And
snitches get stitches.
She was a snitch. One time, this is funny. One time, we had one of these little baby doll bottles, and how I knew this, I don't know. But are we running out of time? Okay. Anyway, how we knew that, I knew this, I don't know. But anyway, she had put water in it, and she was squeezing it, and she said, "What does that look like?" And I said, "Looks like a boy using the bathroom." Now, how I knew that, and I had a brother, and, so I may have seen him, I don't know. Oh, my God, she was going to tell my mother what I said. And so she made me swear on a Bible for that if she wouldn't tell Mother, that I would play baby dolls with her anytime she wanted me to, which meant her hold me and I suck a bottle. Now, I'm like 6, 7 years old. I don't want to suck a bottle, but it was humiliating to her. So anyway, I did it for a little while, and finally I just told Mother about it. And I said, "I know I'm in trouble, but, and she made me
blackmailed, Mom.
And yeah, exactly. And my mother spanked her for making me swear on a Bible. She thought that was horrible. So anyway,
that's good stuff you're telling me there.
It was good, wasn't it? But anyway, back to how I became county clerk.
Yeah.
Okay. So Carol Wilson, who was the reigning county clerk, would have asked me, when I retire, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'd been married several times and made some bad choices. Never anything illegal or anything like that I got caught. And but anyway, but I always told her no, I wasn't going to do it. Well, one of our vendors that we used for years and years and years, that we'd become good friends with, came into town from Dallas, and we all went out to dinner, and I had a couple margaritas, and she brought the paperwork with her. And they talked me into running, and I signed a thing saying I would run for county clerk. Wow. So I tell her all the time, you got me drunk, and talked me into it, which I wasn't drunk. But I did wake up a couple nights after I'd done it and thought, what have I done?
Well, you said a while ago you thought all my skeletons are going to come out and all that stuff.
You know Ed Klein, Judge Klein?
Yep.
Well, he and I talked about it. He wanted me to run, and he came to my office and said, "You need to do it." And I said, "But I've done this, and I've been married all these times." And I can't use the word he used, but he said nobody will care, and do it anyway. And of course, it was never anything said about it. It was more like, what's your platform? What do what are your beliefs and all that kind of stuff. And I had an opponent, but it wasn't. I had fun doing it. I had putting out signs and
how long were you there before you retired? Or
8 years. I ran another term for another term, and I didn't have an opponent, and so I was there for 8 years.
Did you enjoy that office?
I thoroughly enjoyed that office. It was a total change from the county court at law, because county court at law there's just so many cases that need to be heard, and I would walk in my office, I'd go in early most days, but at 8:00 there'd be somebody waiting in line to talk to me, to schedule something, or somebody on the phone needing something, and I really felt like I was really in the loop. I knew what was going on, I knew what everybody was doing, and so I thoroughly enjoyed that part of it. But when I became county clerk, well, there's no other way to put it but this way. I had people, and
you had help.
I didn't have to do what I call the actual day-to-day work. I put out the fires, and I implemented whatever new laws the legislature put into effect every 2 years. They changed stuff up, and kept up with all the current laws and fines and stuff, and went to training and sent people to training, and it was just kind of a whole different type, atmosphere, so.
Could you, but you had worked for all these judges.
Right.
So it seems to me like a person just coming off the street and running wouldn't have a clue how to do it.
They wouldn't.
So you got to run up to it.
Exactly. And I'll tell you this, all of our stuff, the family law stuff is filed in the district clerk's office, but all of our criminal and civil and probate and stuff was in the county clerk's office. And I'll be honest, I thought I pretty much knew everything. About it, but I didn't. There was a lot to it, a lot of administrative stuff I really didn't realize you had to do. And also, Carol, my predecessor, she told me from the day one, she said, the hardest part of this job is managing the people. And that is true.
That's drama also, right?
Constant drama and scheduling and, and trying to keep everybody happy and everything. So, but it was fun. And I made one of my former employees text me today and said, just checking on you, see how you're doing. I had some great relationships and had some good people. And so it was very positive. During COVID, everything changed. And that's one reason I didn't really mind retiring, because the whole atmosphere at the courthouse changed.
So did you retire during COVID?
No, I didn't retire till 2022. Yeah.
Okay.
And, 2023. Anyway, one of those. Anyway, but during COVID, suddenly we were all cut off from each other. Everybody stayed in their office. There were no more group sessions in the conference room to discuss what's going on in the courthouse. And there was no spilling the tea, and most of the stuff that you'll find this interesting, most of the things that happen in the county clerk's office can be done online. So, as far as land, title searches and filing stuff, everything had to be done online. And so, except for marriage license. Well, two things: marriage licenses and cattle brands. We had to file cattle brands, so you had to come in and do that. But you had to come in person and to get a marriage license. And a lot of people wanted to get married during COVID.
Can you do it?
I don't know. So we would, I've set it up online to where people would call, make an appointment, and I had a specific parking spot that I'd got the commissioner to say, okay, and it was for marriage licenses only, that you could park out in the parking lot. And when they would get there, they would text us or call us and tell us they were here. And we'd put on our mask and our gloves, and we'd go out and issue marriage licenses out in the parking lot.
Wow.
So
You know, that was such a weird time because I remember calling my doctor and I'm like, I need to see you or get a shot or whatever. And they would like, pull up.
Yeah.
We'll come out there to you. It was like going to the Sonic, except for
Exactly.
antibiotics. Or
Well,
something.
you know Eddie Furness.
A little bit. He's my doctor.
He's my doctor, and I love Eddie.
Yeah.
And our boys. He and my son played baseball together. That's how I first got to know him. Of course, his daddy was my doctor.
My doctor too.
Forever. And so he got me, whether he wanted me or not. But I love him, and I call him Dr. Eddie. And so, because I say, you earned the title, so, I'm going to call you Dr. Eddie. But anyway, he came out to give me a shot, a flu shot or something one day, and outside, and I said, I love this. He said, really? And I said, I do, because y'all aren't going to haul that big-ass scale out here for me to have to weigh it.
It's true.
And he said, you're right, we're not. So
They should have done it at farmer's market where you pull your car over the scale or something.
Exactly. But
you know what? One thing I love so many things about this town, but I love the Pokes, the Jonathan and Aaron Jr., Little Aaron, Big Aaron, and Eddie and doctors, all of them. But it's so much more like that true doctor-patient relationship happens here as opposed to kind of a factory sort of thing other places. It's so personal.
Yeah. I text his office when I need to see somebody or whatever, and I'll usually say, oh, I can see Jesse, or if Dr. Eddie's available, but sometimes I'll say I want to see Dr. Eddie. Well, no problem. And the other day I had the flu over Christmas, and so I went in to get tested to see if I had the flu or COVID or what, and I went into that fast track, they do at the back, about that?
I think you go in and out of the fast track.
Yes.
I used to be in the fast track, and now I'm sort of back to the front office.
Well,
I don't know what happened.
Well, I normally go to the front office, but every once in a while, like for that, I thought, well, I'll just go in there. Well, but Dr. Eddie came back there. He said, I heard you were back here. I'm just checking on you. He's a real sweet. Of course, I mess with him and tease him, and we talk LSU and baseball and stuff like that.
We spend more time. I mean, he comes in and he sits down when he finishes with the other patient, and he'll come in and we spend 2 minutes working on the medical thing and 10 minutes going, what's going on? How you doing?
Exactly.
And all that.
And he asks, I tell him all the time, I said, you're so positive. I said,
he is.
I said, you'll be like, we're going to have to amputate your leg, but it's okay. You have another one.
That's exactly what he does. He goes, Brad, things are going great. You're dying, but it's good.
It's good.
And I'm like, I feel so good when I come out with all that bad news.
Yeah, he's great.
It's amazing.
And I love him because I'll say, I take cholesterol medicine. So I told him, I said, I heard about this new drug that's injectable, and you only do it every 2 weeks. And he said, well, let's try it.
Yeah.
See what you think.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, we'll go back to the other stuff. I love working with him. He's just great.
See, that's the Mayberry part of Nacogdoches that I worry so much that we might lose.
Yeah.
Because it's so, I don't think people realize, like, you were born here, but you went to Japan too.
Right.
But a lot of people are born here, I think, and they're like, oh, it's just old. Nothing happens here, and I have nothing to do. And I'm like, you need to live in Los Angeles for a couple of months, and then you're going to come back and kiss the brick streets that you live on, because it's so wonderful, even though you said there's a little bit of crime here.
There is a little bit. We'll have to tell you this story. I lived in an apartment at the corner of Hughes Street and North Fredonia, right by the junior high. Okay,
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And I lived there for 12 years before I knew Mike and I got married. And I moved uptown, like to Jefferson's,
Uh-huh.
But anyway, as a matter of fact, this guy was moving my furniture and some stuff into Mike's house, and it's a nice house. And he said, which it's our house now. But anyway, this moving guy, he said, what do you have to do to get a nice house like this? And I said, find you an old man that's got one and marry him. And see, new Mike loves that. He just thinks that's so funny for me to say that. But anyway, I was living there, and I was outside pulling weeds in my flower bed, and this big guy walks by, and he has a bread sack in his hand. And he says, ma'am, real nice, very polite, said, ma'am, if I'll do that for you, if you just for $3 so I can buy some lunch meat to make a sandwich. And I'd been at work all day, and I felt sorry for him. And I said, well, I'd love for you to do this, but I'll pay you more than $3.
Yeah.
Well, he came and he cleaned out that flower bed and did a great job, and I paid him $20. Well, he came back the next day and wanted to know if there's anything else, so he did some more for me. That day I went to Butcher Boys and got him a hamburger. And then he came another day, and well, in the meantime, our bailiff, his name was Donnie, he was our bailiff in court. He was a security over at the junior high, and he would wear his uniform and go over there and work security in the evenings. And so, and I'd go over there a lot of times. I'd be walking my dog, and I'd go over there, and I would talk to him and everything. So I'd told him about this guy coming and doing this. So he comes over there. After the second time, the third time the guy came, Donnie comes over to just check things out.
Mm-hmm.
And so that day, I literally drove the guy to his sister's house up on the west end of town. Okay.
It was escalating a little bit.
Yes, it was. And I mean, I knew it was kind of taking a chance, but I do watch true crime, but
And you do have a gun.
I do have a gun, but anyway. So after Donnie came over there and saw him, we got to the office the next day, and Donnie said, I'm going to show you something. So he pulls up the jail file, and here's this guy's picture. And he has been in prison for murder. Now, he's been out for a little while, but it still says considered dangerous. And he said, you need to quit letting him come to your house.
Yeah.
So after that, Donnie would come over and kind of just back and forth, so because it made the guy nervous. You could tell that the uniform guy was there. And I lied to the guy and told him my son was going to be coming, staying with me, and he was going to do my flower beds and everything. And in the meantime, after I had fired him, we caught him on video at the courthouse stealing a chainsaw out of the back of one of the commissioner's pickup trucks. So he went to jail. Not a smart guy.
No.
And has since gone back to prison for, I don't want to say murder, but maybe attempted murder. So, yes, he was dangerous, and, yes, there are criminals. And even knowing that and working in that environment, I still, was trusting. And I will tell you this. We did family law. We did criminal law. I sat in the courtroom many, many days waiting for the judge, and the bailiff would be doing something else, and I'd be sitting in there with a room full of inmates. Not once was I ever scared or nervous. Mm-hmm. They were respectful. I was respectful to them. They were respectful to me. Family law, those people are crazy. Now, when it comes to custody and splitting up finances, that's what'll scare you, so.
I read the police report.
Yeah.
And this is several years ago because it was in the paper or whatever, but it was about, and they don't explain things. It's just what happened. It said that a woman slapped her husband with a catfish. Okay. And I was like, so he came home and said, here's the fish, clean them. I don't know
exactly.
But you just can make up all these incredible stories.
Why are you holding a catfish just at the time you want to hit him? I mean, something happened.
Something happened.
Yeah.
And I also was thinking, if you've ever been finned by a catfish, it has that poison stuff in it, and that it's slimy. There's all kinds of stories go on in my head like that.
And then did he call the police because she slapped him with a?
Well, they got a police report out of it,
that's funny.
So
most men would be ashamed, to admit their wife hit them with a catfish.
Well, it depends on whether it was a blue op or something like that. It could have been a 30-pound fish that she slapped him with.
And it might have broken the pretty fish that he had,
Yeah.
So
maybe he wanted it mounted and it was a bass or something.
You never know. You never know.
But I like that kind of stuff. But I still, I just want it to be, I just long for it to be a small town.
Yeah.
And it's not.
And it's not a lot, in my opinion. Of course, like I said, there's murders and there's, I'm sure there's all kinds of things that go on behind the scenes that I don't even know about.
Yeah.
But I think just for the most part, I think it's just really, I feel safe here. I'm not, I don't ever worry about driving home in the dark from anywhere or whatever, so but I do have a gun. So.
You know, I mean, obviously, towns that all places and all towns reflect the national culture or what's either happening good or bad. And so there's always that little bit of a reflection.
Yeah.
But I feel like East Texas is sort of sheltered. Pine trees give us more oxygen, you know,
exactly.
and maybe make things a little lighter. So I don't know. I just have such great hopes here all the time.
Well,
and I love all the rain that we haven't had that much lately, but gosh, it's
I love a good rainstorm.
Oh man,
I don't care if the electricity goes off or anything. Just I love to listen to the rain. So yeah, so
anyway. So people in families are, you know, they're the one that makes the great grades, or there's the peacemakers or whatever. Where were you in the family?
I think I was the peacemaker, very much so, and I wasn't the smartest one, and I wasn't the most, gifted academically. I didn't, I had to study and everything, but I was the peacemaker, and I was always, I think I was kind of the fun one, And my brother, his name was Neil. He flew. He was a pilot, and I'd call him on a Saturday, and I said, "What you doing?" He'd say, "Waiting on you," and then we'd get the plane, may go to Shreveport or go somewhere, and my family, everybody always kind of enjoyed being around me, and I was always the one that kind of got the parties together or the reunions together or the get-togethers. So I've really missed that since my family's gone. But
I don't feel like you're one of those people that's on in the public and off in private. A lot of people are like, comedians are like that. They're the life of the party, but you get them, you get to know them actual as people, and they're real dark and they're pretty unhappy. But you seem like just this.
Oh, I am pretty much, this morning I was thinking about, today I was thinking about some of the questions you might ask me. And I thought, if you ask me, are you having a good day? And my first thought was, yesterday, my little 2-year-old Shih Tzu named Tucker, who's so sweet, he was sick. And I mean, you could tell he had fever. He was real warm, and he was real lethargic and wouldn't eat or drink or anything. And, things like that always happen on the weekend.
Right. Right. When there's no doctor.
And there are no vets available. Yeah. And so my first thought was, this morning I'm going to get up, and I did at 7:00. I was up and I was checking on him like nothing happened. To me, I'm having a great day already. He's fine. Oh, okay. I have no idea what was wrong with him, but he's eating like a horse and just happy as he can be. And so I don't know.
Maybe he had a little touch of the flu.
Maybe he did. I don't know. But anyway, so I have Tucker. I can't mention Tucker without mentioning his little sibling, who's a toy poodle named Pepper.
So Tucker's the Shih Tzu.
Yes, okay. And then I have a toy poodle named Pepper, and she is as mean as a snake. I mean, she's sweet, but she's real loving and everything. But if somebody comes around that she doesn't really like, she's going to growl. Now she had never bitten anybody or anything like that, but she's
poodles are real smart, though.
Yes. Oh, she's smart.
I've experienced both, because we had my daughter when she was little.
Yes.
That daughter-daddy thing. We were in a pet store because Dad just let me look, and like this little tiny ball of a thing, it's a Shih Tzu, was $800, and I remember her going, "Please, Dad, just please," And she was a really good arguer, by the way, too. She would this might actually solve the problems of the world. I mean, that kind of thing. Exactly. And I'm like, and what else are you going to do with that money, Dad? And all that stuff. And so anyway, we raised this dog.
Yes.
And it was the sweetest, kindest, sweet little, but dumb. I mean, Shih Tzus are not the brightest.
But they're
the
so
poodles
sweet.
Are mean, and they're they'll blackmail you and stuff. And,
I mean, I've catch myself sitting in my recliner, and I'm sitting very uncomfortably because the poodle is down here and I can't move because it might upset her,
Oh, I know.
So anyway, yes, I do understand that.
Rule.
But, John Fleming is the one who really started my love of dogs, because he's always, for as long as I've known him, had a dog. He doesn't right now. But I had, and when I got my first Shih Tzu, I had never had a dog. And I had come just kind of a really, really awful relationship, not a marriage. I didn't marry him, thank God. But anyway.
Was he a Shih Tzu also?
Yeah. No, he was he should have been put down. Yeah, I'm just telling you. But anyway, so I got this dog, and it was kind of like somebody called me and said, "Here's a dog. There's a Shih Tzu, and we've got to rehome it, and it's free." And, like I said, they're $800. If you buy them outright. So I got the dog, and I got some kind of stomach bug like the day I brought him home, and then it snowed. The few times it snows here, it was several years ago, and it snowed, and he was. I say she was about this big, and I couldn't put her out in the snow because she'd just sink down.
You can't, yeah.
And so she was peeing in the house, and I was sick, and so I'd had her for just a few days, and I went to see John in his office, and I was crying, and I said, I just can't do this, John. I feel horrible, but I'm going to have to find her another home, and I just can't do it. And John said, Gina, I'm going to tell you what I want you to do. I want you to give it 2 weeks. Just say at the end of 2 weeks, if you still feel this way, I will help you find a place for her, okay? But just don't make a decision today.
He is a saint.
He is. And in 2 weeks, I was like, well, the snow had melted, and she was precious. And, I mean, I had her for 14 years, And so, anyway, so he's you can see why I love him like I do. Yeah. He's like a brother.
John and I have bonded over sunflowers, of all things.
Really?
He gave us seeds for what they're called Mexican sunflowers. They're orange. Yeah. But he grows them. He grows them better than I do.
I did not know that.
But yeah, one time he's like, because every time he passes by my house, because we're always out in the backyard, and he sees us, he goes, Brad, Julie, hey. It's just, I can be having the worst day possible, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
It's a great thing. But anyway, he gave us these seeds, and so that's our common bond that we have as growing these sunflowers.
I did not see. I learned something about him, but
it may be a secret that he didn't that he's kind to me or something. But he is such a good-hearted
he is
man.
good. I have to tell you this: the bad relationship that I was in. I mean, it lasted for longer than it should have. I was with the picture of a narcissist in the dictionary. I mean, my sister kept telling me, June, it's horrible. Anyway, but I ended it, and it nearly ripped me apart to do it, but I did it, and I was very unhappy. I cried a lot, and it was that was a dark time in my life. But anyway, so I really thought I will never look at another man. I will never. I mean, I've had those thoughts. I mean, I thought this is it for me. I've learned my lesson,
Definition of insanity.
Yes. Yes. So anyway, one day after work, I'm driving along, and John and Meredith had just bought the house they live in now. And I drove by, and John is outside with a metal detector. He's just playing with it and everything. And his dad's with him. Did you ever meet his dad?
Huh.
Oh, gosh.
I know his mom.
Well, anyway, Anyway, I tell John now he loves the story. So I pull over, and I'm joking with him. I said, "So is this how you're trying to make your first payment? You're looking for money out in the yard, Well, he says, June, I want you to meet my dad. And his dad, probably, I have to say, and I'd only met him a couple times during his lifetime. One of the most charismatic people.
Baseball player, right?
Yes, and the women loved him. The prettiest blue eyes. I mean, just crystal blue. And so I'm the passenger side's over here, and Tommy, his dad, walks up, puts half his body in the car, sticks his hand out, looks me right in the eye, and said, "It is so nice to meet you." And I'm telling you, my heart, I called John, and I said, "Guess what? I'm your new stepmother." He said, "Well, he's married right now." And I said, "Well, as soon as it's over, I'm next." And we laughed about it a lot, that his daddy changed my whole mind about men. Because it was just something, he had such a way about him. So John loves it when I tell that story because he loves his daddies.
Well, let's defend Meredith for a moment because John is so lucky to have her?
My gosh.
Most beautiful?
Isn't she gorgeous?
Inside and out?
She has the most beautiful skin and hair and just, she's a tennis player.
I didn't know.
She went to SFA on a full tennis scholarship.
Wow.
Yeah, and but anyway, she's just the most gracious person in the world. But I'm gonna tell you something. That woman, she would kill somebody if they upset John Fleming.
Mm-hmm.
Now she will. She gets aggravated with him, but Lord have mercy, she will defend him to the death.
Yeah.
And you never hear her say ugly words until somebody has done something to hurt John.
Yeah.
And she will let it loose.
Well, she told me one day, and we don't know each other really well, but it was so sweet, sort of. She worked at a lawyer's office, and she was like, and sometimes, Brad, I get so mad that I say dirty words. Yes. And I was like, Meredith.
I know.
But it was so, I was like, oh.
She's precious. And she used to, when I was the court administrator, I was in court a lot. My desk it looked like a tornado had come through, just be papers everywhere. But I knew where everything was.
Yeah, don't touch it.
Don't mess with it, because I knew where everything was. And if you needed a document, I could get right to it. Well, she used to give me a hard time about how messy my desk was until she started working for Jeff Davey. And she'll tell me, June, I totally get it now. She said, I don't know how you did all you did and how you kept your sanity, because it's just a madhouse running that court when you're in court and everything. So
what questions did you think I was going to ask I didn't ask?
Well, I thought that you'd ask me, are you having a good day? And
are you having a good day?
I'm having a great day. Like I say, I started out, two things happened today to make me really think it's a good day. One thing I thought you was going to mention was like my twang, and I was going to tell you that Leanne Morgan, she's made me credible.
Yeah, the comedian, right?
She's getting filthy
funny.
Rich.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
And but she's hysterical. I went to see her, and my stepdaughter, who I adore, Mike's daughter. They live in Frisco, and she called me.
Oh, that's fancy, actually.
Oh yeah. She flips houses and does
That's
really
what they
really
do
well.
in Frisco.
Oh, and she does really well.
It's money, money, money.
And but anyway, she called me and she said, if I got tickets to go see Leanne Morgan at the American Airlines Stadium,
Pavilion,
Coliseum, whatever it's called, she said, would you go? And I went, well, yeah. Anyway, so we did that, had a great time. But anyway, what was I going? Oh yeah, what you were going to ask me? I thought you might mention that, so I was going to say that Leanne Morgan and I are kind of soul sisters. But the other thing that made me today a good day, I was reading or watching this film clip of Oprah on CBS Sunday Morning, and she finally admitted the reason she has lost weight is from the injectable diet, stuff that people are doing. Yeah. So I told Mike we need to put some money into that stock, because now that Oprah said it's okay, then it's going to really go off the shelf now. So anyway,
what is that, Pfizer or something like that? Or I don't know who knows all that.
But there's 2 or 3 different. They advertise all the time on TV. About Stephanie hates it when I do that. She hates air quotes. That's for you, Stephanie. But anyway,
what else do you think I'd ask you?
Any
thoughts?
Well, I figured you would ask me a lot about John, and I did want to mention that I listened to y'all's podcast, and he talked about archaeology. I don't think he even knows how to spell it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Bill, you don't have to spell it to like it.
Yeah, I know. But I was thinking, oh my God, he's going to think I'm going to talk about archaeology, and he's going to think I'm talking about politics, because I've really kind of lost interest in politics since I retired, because I was really into all that. I went to Austin and sat through the Senate hearings and all that kind of stuff. But I don't do that anymore. But anyway, I thought you would ask me about my marriages, which you did, but I'm not ashamed. You know what I told one woman? She told me she'd been married 3 times, and she said, I'm embarrassed when people find out I've been married 3 times. And
that's actually go on. Sorry.
Well, I told her, I said, you need to just say, how many women do you know that have that many men that want to marry them?
Yeah, it's kind of
I
popular.
mean, that doesn't even count the ones I said no to.
Well, and I think that's kind of a low count for parts of East Texas
Sure,
anyway.
sure.
I mean, I think 6 to 8 is more of a
Well, used to 7 was a limit. You couldn't.
Liz. It's
but
what I
not
call the
anymore.
Liz Taylor
Yeah,
mean.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
And as I say, it took me a few times to get one a rock this big. So
Yeah.
anyway, I kept having to trade up, and so
Well, see, being on a soap opera, I got the advantage of being married many, many times. So
exactly.
they come and go.
But you and Bobby were special.
Yeah,
We
were. She was the healthiest person on the show. I didn't understand
what
that.
happened to her?
Well, I honestly don't know. They kept it very secret,
Oh.
but she was one of those people, like a lot of us, just pull in sleepy in the morning and
Yeah.
you got to get up and work and all this stuff. She would get to the studio at 4 a.m. and I would get there at my call time at 7 a.m. So
Yeah.
she's been there 3 hours. She's out in her little Lululemons or whatever, jogging around the lot. I mean, healthy, ate right, So just, it seemed like, and I do believe this, that we sort of have an expiration date on our back that we can't see. Somebody else can see it, but we can't. Yeah. And, just the way it goes.
My sister that was 2 years older than I am, she was one, I've always, the weight has always been an issue. I've struggled with it all my life, and everything, but a lot of people say they've got this skinny person trying to get out. I feel like I have this 500-pound woman trying to bust her way out of here, But anyway, my sister, she's always stayed healthy and in shape, and she was tall and thin and perfect skin and her hair always perfect, and she exercised and did all this stuff. And then she was 65 and she got this really rare lung condition, and within 3 weeks died.
Wow.
So, and my brother got killed in a plane crash.
This is the one that flew all the time, right?
Yes. And he was flying one of those World War II Confederate Air Force planes, and it was out in Midland, Texas, and they never did really know for sure what happened. But anyway, he was like in his early 50s, and then my oldest sister, like I say, she was 46 and had a massive heart attack, and so you never know.
You seem to, or we've talked about it, you seem to have had a lot of deaths.
Yes.
And how do you handle it? Is it just
well, and it's like I said, my faith's had a lot to do with that. When I lost my parents, I was really devastated because they were young. My mother was 65, Daddy was 75, but I had taken care of him toward the end and saw him every day, and he would. It was hard for me to let him go, but my brother, it destroyed me for a while, but I really believe I'll see him again. Mm-hmm. It's almost like they've already gone on this trip that I'm going to go on someday, and I just don't know when I'm leaving. I don't have a departure time yet.
Yeah.
And believe me, there's not a day that passes that I don't think about them and think about what I'd like to tell them at some point. I mean, my brother he'd be sitting here watching all this. I mean, he would be right in the middle of it. And my sister Judy would say, "When's her turn?" Because, and
she's mean.
Yeah, because she's mean and, want everything for herself. And I wouldn't have survived without her as long as I did, but as long as I have. But anyway, and I don't want anybody to think that I take it lightly, because I don't.
No, I know you don't.
But she and I talked about my sister. She was very smart. Now, she wasn't worth the flip with trivial stuff, like she'd leave the water faucet on in the bathroom and flood the bathroom a couple times a year and stuff like that. But smart and deep thinker and really saw things from a very diplomatic angle. But anyway, she and I talked about that. There's all kinds of loss in life. Changing, moving. There's loss when you move. There's loss when you change jobs. There's loss when people die or you divorce or whatever. And so it's not like even people who haven't lost someone through death, they've still had loss,
Yeah.
And I just refuse to be unhappy. Now, I will tell you, when my husband died in the 80s, was extremely depressed. And I remember almost to the day, it was like 6 months after he died, I got up and I cried every morning, having to get dressed. I didn't want to go anywhere. And then when I'd get home, I'd cry. And I remember this one particular morning, I got up and I went to work, and I remember just standing there and I was at the flower shop, and I just told myself, I'm not going to be unhappy anymore. I want to be happy. And I'd quit going out with my friends. I had, people would call and say, let's go to the movie, and I wouldn't go. Well, I just made myself every weekend. I'd made plans with somebody to do something, and it just kind of pulled myself out of that, but because I had to. And so you'll love this story. Right after he died, it was just my son, and my son was 6, and we were there at home by ourselves. And of course, I didn't want to do anything on the weekends and or do after work. So I bought a VCR, our first VCR. I paid over $500
Yeah,
for
it's
it.
new then.
Yeah. So I've always thought that was so funny because you couldn't find one to buy now, if you had to. But anyway, so I bought us a VCR, and we'd go to East Texas rental. It was the only place you could get a video, and we'd rent the limit of however many you could rent for the weekend, and we'd stay home and watch movies and
So
stuff.
you pulled yourself out of that hole.
I did.
Pretty much.
I had to, and I knew I had to. I mean, I had to work, had to take care of Jason, and I knew that I just have always thought too that happiness is really it's a choice. It's I mean, there are things that affect you and things that you have to work around and everything, but. It doesn't help to just walk around with a sad look on your face all the time, so.
But that, guys, and I know for a fact myself, our identity's mixed up with our job.
Right.
And when we don't have a job anymore, we don't have an identity sometimes.
Right. I heard you in that podcast talk about that, yeah.
Yeah, I talk about it a lot, I think, because it affected me so much. But
Sure.
Did it affect you ever, or was it more like the loss of your husband and stuff?
I looked forward to retirement when I retired, but I immediately felt this loss because I didn't have somewhere to go every day.
Yeah.
I didn't have any reason to get dressed up. I mean, I had a closet full of, slacks and blazers and stuff like that because I always dressed up
Office
for work.
clothes.
Yeah. And nobody does anymore, but I always did. And so it was like I didn't have any reason to get dressed, and too, with the job that I had and working with like the judges and with Jeff Davis and he was county attorney for part of the time that I was there, and I loved working next door to him, but and John and everything, I felt kind of out of the loop, and I didn't know everything that was going on, and I don't know. I didn't want to watch TV all the time, and so it's just
That's kind of what I'm facing right now. Is I'm like I have no purpose sometimes.
Yes,
and it's a transition.
it is a transition, and it's and sometimes it'll hit me that I'll never interview for a job again. I'll never be that person in charge. I won't be the boss anymore. I mean, it does. It'll hit
You ever
me.
asked you, Mike, if you could just practice on him a
Well, he
little bit?
tells me sometimes that I've forgotten that I'm not the boss anymore. Every once in a while, he'll tell me. In 8 years, we've never had an argument. Never. But
Because he doesn't argue with
he
you,
doesn't.
I bet.
He won't argue with me. I mean, he just, he doesn't. I told him when we got married, I said, "Now I don't cook. I'm not a good cook. It's not my thing,
What's your thing?
Well, I used to decorate a lot.
Okay.
And I used to do weddings on the side and stuff just for fun, early for fun because you didn't make any money at it. But I would, my thing, well.
Do you like to fish with him or?
Not too much because he likes to do it in the heat of the day and then even if it's, 12 degrees outside. And,
Okay.
And, so, and he likes to go every other day, just about he's on the lake. And, is
it Sam Rayburn?
He goes to Rayburn. There's a place up close to Henderson called Martin Creek.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, there's a electrical thing there.
They like to hang out around.
Oh,
energy
he
stuff.
just gets, he can catch his limit. You'd think, I should have brought you some fish, dadgummit, because we got a freezer full, vacuum packed and everything. But anyway, but he goes there and he likes to go to Merval, and he likes to go to, he doesn't go to Lake Nacogdoches a lot, every once in a while. And where else does he go? Shoot, I can't even think. But anyway, he's always.
You go to Nacogdoches?
Not much. It's not a lot of
I
room.
think people go to Striker Lake. Maybe?
Yeah, there's a striker. He's gone there before, but he's just it just every day is a different. Every time he goes, it's I always have to say, where you going?
Yeah.
And but he's got. I have to tell you, he's got the fish finder. You know what I'm talking about when I talk about that.
They literally just drop it on their head.
Exactly. He's got 4 monitors on that boat.
Oh my gosh.
I know. And he's got these special, we went to Oklahoma to get these special, it's a pontoon boat. And he's got these special little propeller things on the back that help to control where the big $5,000 troll motor goes and everything, and helps in the wind. I mean, this boat.
It's like the space shuttle.
It is. Well, I've told him that NASA probably will be contacting him, for, get some information from him. But anyway, but he loves it. And so,
and he's a good cook, right?
He's good. He's he doesn't like to do it that much anymore. But and I think, what do we eat? We eat out a lot. We eat out. We go get stuff and bring it home. Or I'm responsible for 1 meal a day, and then I tell him you're on your own after that if you want something else. Today I fixed him a bowl of soup and told him to go to Mike's barbecue for supper or something because I wouldn't be there. But it's just not an issue between us, now. But now I cook great.
Or if y'all get on those Ozempic things.
Well, he's on it because he's diabetic.
Yeah.
And,
so you don't need food that much anyway. You can just have a shot.
He's never hungry.
Yeah.
Well, they've lowered his dosage, so he eats a little bit more. But I have learned to make chicken tenders, fried chicken tenders, and I'm telling you, I make the best you'll ever eat.
Really?
Yes. So you soak them in buttermilk.
Oh, like backstrap on a deer kind of thing.
Well, yeah. Sorry.
They soak on it. Yeah, they soak in buttermilk.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, it's good. But anyway, I can cook a few things, and I've been trying to learn how to make cookies because I have a friend that has a cookie exchange party every year, and I was supposed to go this year, but then I got the flu and I didn't get to go. But anyway, so I'm doing a little more.
Will you come back?
Oh my gosh.
Someday, because we barely got out of high school here.
You want to say shut up?
No, it's just that clock, which I can't tell what time it is. It's like 57 o'clock or something, but anyway.
Well, I would love to, and I'd love to do like a joint one, like with John or Stephanie or something.
That's what I was going to ask you is maybe we could bring John and Stephanie in.
Oh my God.
Or whoever you want,
yes.
depending on if you're mad at them or not. It's week.
Yeah,
You never know.
You never know. It might happen.
But that would be really good because we barely scratched the surface.
I know. And I feel like I just have so much to tell you, Brad.
I know. And we don't really know each other that much.
No.
But like I can remember, I didn't know you at all, but I went in to that area of the courthouse 20-something years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember you knew me forever. Or you were just friendly and nice and everything. And that's just funny. It stuck with me all this time, and it's not like we've ever hung out. But
no. And I remember that, I felt a little spark, that time I met you in the Arboretum. But that was, I just missed out.
That's the curse of being a doctor on a soap.
I know. And every once in a while I drive by and see you. And Julie, is that is that your wife?
Well, my partner.
I understand.
We've been together a long time.
Yeah.
And we're happy.
And that's what's
She's
important.
the smartest, best person ever,
Yes.
Yeah, you do. Why don't you stop?
But
We have drive-by visitors.
Well, I drove by the other day and you were at the mailbox and I yelled at you. But,
yeah.
And so from now on, if I see you out, because I go by that way all the time because I go to church, First Christian Church out there. So
no, I'm serious because we have this thing where we sit outside.
Yeah.
And literally Gary Woods and all your buddies and stuff.
Yeah.
But they will pull in, roll their window down, and just chat for a while. and then it's
Well,
like a
that's great.
drive-by shooting, except it's a drive-by visit. You know?
Well, I would tell you about Gary. He always writes these poems.
Oh, I know. He's famous.
And he wrote one for me when I retired. And we actually wrote one for me when I ran for county clerk, and then he wrote another one for when I retired. So when he retired, I wrote one for him.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and read it for him. So, yeah, I love Gary.
He loves that kind of stuff,
Oh, he
too.
does.
He loves the very fact that you wrote him a
Yeah,
poem is incredible.
But, yeah, he's a great guy. I hope he wins commissioner.
I do, too.
I'm going to vote for him. So, I hope I'm in this precinct. You know what? I don't think I am anymore now that I've married.
Well, you can still move, maybe, and just for a time.
Exactly.
New Mike, I got to move over here and vote for Gary.
Vote for Gary. Well, Mike, he loves Gary, too, so he probably would say, let's just move. So,
Well, I think
anyway.
you could pick a better person,
Anyway.
really.
But do you like to fish?
I do. I haven't fished in a while. I don't know what happened. It's like the water got too hot for me.
Yeah.
And I felt like the fish were already cooked when I
Yeah.
pulled them up.
Yeah.
They were a little hot.
Yeah.
And I have this sort of instinct sometimes. It's just paranoia, but I can feel when there's sickness in the air kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Are you feeling anything right now?
no,
Okay.
no, I'm feeling very, it's very light and airy kind of. But I don't know. People call me crazy, but I do. And there was a period a few years ago where I just felt like I'm not feeling this right now. The fish don't feel well to me, and honey holes have too many old Christmas trees in them or something,
I do. That's
Plus, I started, and I think I said this on the podcast, but when I pull a catfish out and it's got lipstick around its mouth from sucking on those barrels, I'm like, nice to catch, not to eat.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I got a little weird about all that.
Well, I was just going to say that, Mike's always, new Mike, is always fishing. So if you ever want to.
No, I'm serious. I would like to get back into it.
Now, John's always begging him to take him, but they never have been able to get their schedules together.
Well, I check up on John. He's got a little John boat that he occasionally sees in the back of his pickup.
John's a little bit of a redneck.
Little bit.
There's a little bit of redneck in him, yeah.
That's something, when we come back in next time, we need to discuss this because people have the wrong idea about rednecks. They're smart, crafty, good people.
Exactly.
But they're also dramatic.
Yes.
A little dramatic.
Well, they're very territorial.
Yeah.
And, but my part of being a redneck, I mean, like I say, I'm a country girl, but I feel like I have a lot of common sense.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing that I think that's one reason I've done as well as I have and lived life as well as I have, because I've just always kind of just had a little bit of sixth sense, and I love having, I'd much rather have a little common sense than to have all the degrees and stuff. So anyway, I just wasn't real smart when I was young, so.
Well, I would never. People are always like, you're not a deep thinker, Brad. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm a feeler.
That's right.
I can feel you. You are evil.
That's right. That's right.
You're good. You're evil. Whatever. I may be wrong, but.
Well, I would be happy to come back.
Great.
And because I've had a wonderful time.
Good.
I haven't had anybody disinterested or to pretend to be disinterested in me
I'm interested.
in a long time. So, and like I say, new Mike, he would listen to me all night long, but he can't understand me.
Oh, okay.
And he says he can hear me, but it can't really, this twang doesn't hit his $6,000 hearing aids just right,
I got you.
Yeah, anyway.
Getting a little feedback on
I'll have to tell you the story about him not being able to hear me sometimes. So anyway.
Well, that's like a cliffhanger for next time that we meet.
Exactly, yes.
Thank you, guys. And remember to like and subscribe so that I can feed I have a herd of chickens, actually.
Oh, you have chickens?
No.
Oh.
I'm lying. But I do need you to like and subscribe. A lot of people don't understand what that's about. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't cost you any money or any livestock or anything. All it does is it just makes wherever the powers that be that run YouTube and Amazon and Apple Music and all that stuff, iHeartRadio, it makes them go,
Well, I meant for you to put your Monster drink and your potato chips on here for sponsorships.
Oh, yeah. I'll have to learn to drink them first. I get a little too jittery on that kind of stuff.
I'm not good at it, no. Okay.
Thank you so much for coming on. And I'll see you soon.
Yes.
And we'll see you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye.
There ain't nothing wrong with me
Oh my God.
you can't fix. There ain't nothing wrong with me. A little TLC can't lick. I got